the statistical argument is not going to persuade Americans that their ability to own guns and keep the government at bay is going to be something that we're going to put on the table.
When you say keep the government at bay, and you talk about gun ownership, that sounds rather alarming. What do you mean by that?
Well, it was rather alarming to George III, too, when the colonists said, "You've become a tyrant, stop it." And when he wouldn't stop, we shot. And we got rid of your king.
George III wasn't democratically elected by the people of America. The President of the United States is. Surely times have moved on somewhat, haven't they?
Sometimes the president seems to forget that he was democratically elected.
Are you saying that Americans should exercise their Second Amendment rights to stand up against this current president?
I'm saying that the president should remember George III's experience.
That sounds like a warning.
Of course it is.
Isn't that kind of warning going to encourage some people to take a shot at the president?
It's an encouragement to people who are already being encouraged by the president's actions and his words to go and buy firearms, especially if they haven't owned them before, which is what's happening in this country.
But what you're saying is irresponsible, is it not? In a country where at least 3 presidents were killed by gunfire. I mean, if you've got a fairly high assassination rate of your leaders in this country, surely for calling to stand up against the democratically elected leader of this country, you're asking for trouble.
It's rather irresponsible to suggest that we should allow a tyrant to have his way and the people not be able to resist.
He was elected by the majority of people in this country.
The president was elected by a majority of the people. That does not give him a right to violate the Constitution.
But he's not violating it. He has said, I respect the Second Amendment. He's not going to do anything to get rid of the Second Amendment. You don't believe that?
He says he respects the Second Amendment even while he's doing all he can to destroy it.
But what's he done to destroy it in detail?
He's called for background checks, which he has no legal authority to do.
Hang on a second. How could you possibly object to background checks if you're the kind of person who says too many guns end up in criminal hands?
So we are saying no gun control at all. Nothing, one word at all is acceptable.
Isn't what you're arguing the equivalent of saying in the car industry in the 1970s or 80s, no seat belts, no speed limits, no limitations on how people use their motor vehicles, which is essentially also potentially a lethal weapon if you drive badly?
You know, there's still many Americans that don't enjoy the notion that the government considers itself to be our nanny. And seatbelt laws are an example of a good idea being made compulsory.